Hello, welcome to day 2 of week 8 of split 1 of the 2019 OPL. I'm Nick Boy Richardson, and it's a very weird day today. Tonally, moodily. Gentlemen, Rusty, Spawn, it's raining. There's a weird vibe in the air.
Is it?
What vibe?
Is it just me? I'm putting the weird vibe out.
I think it might just... It is hot.
Now.
It's
I woke
raining at
up
30.
and realized that I had one size 8.5 shoe and one size 9 shoe that I'd purchased
Weird
yesterday.
story.
That's the vibe.
That's the vibe.
That's
Weird.
what it is.
No.
Yeah, yep. And you didn't have the receipt, so what did you need to do to get the receipt?
I need to search through all your disgusting kiwi fruit. I mean, silly
Disgusting.
spit-ups. That actually tilted me, Nick. I'm not gonna lie. As soon as I opened the garbage bag and
Yep.
it was the same one as the kiwi fruits in it,
Yep.
I was like, "This is gross."
And that wasn't just me as well. That was some Bailey fruit as well.
There was.
It was disgusting. Has your day been any better?
I don't think I've had anything weird happen.
Haven't you?
The
No?
trains weren't working.
That's, well,
I
that's
guess
not
you
weird.
could-
That's pretty predictable,
Yeah, it's a
actually.
weekend, actually, at Sydney.
Screw this damn
Yeah,
city.
damn.
How are you guys doing? We are excited to be back for another evening of League of Legends action. Before we get into the main event, some housekeeping. We're going to be running a double Nick box.
Are we really?
Yes.
Nick box squared.
Yes. That's how maths
actually-
works. So please send in your questions to asknickboy@gmail.com. We're going to be answering all evening. We've already got a stack. That's why we're doing the 2. But
So
we
then
like
why are you
those fresh
asking for
ones.
more?
Well, because here's the thing. You sit on it for a week, you like it when it comes in on a Monday, and then suddenly you're like, nah, I've read this too many times now. This is a dumb question. And then I kick Fizz to win to the side. And I say that because Fizz to win, you've sent in, I don't know, let's be conservative, 72 questions. Another...
Really?
Sorry?
That's passion.
72.
Well, yeah, see, it is passion, and I agree. But then often follows up with tweets to me saying, answer my questions. And I'm like, well, that just makes me want
That's
to answer
aggressive.
them less.
That's
Yeah,
intense.
that is intense. Fizz to win. You're very intense. Fizz to whiz, good name though. Also, you can join the High School League and the Uni Club. Go to the League of Legends Australia website, sign up, get your teacher to start a club thing, become successful in the esports arena. Because God knows it's going to stick around.
Yep, and there's more opportunities now than there were when we were around, Spawn, to say the least.
Absolutely.
These
When I was
things
in high
existing.
school, League of Legends didn't exist. So there's heaps more League of Legends clubs in high schools than when I was a kid.
Me too. I mean, I blame the fact that I'm not a professional League of Legends athlete on the fact that it was never at school.
I agree. Do you know, I used to get thrown out. Like, I used to be like, my dad would be like, go outside, go skateboard, go like kick a ball, go do something. And the reason that I'm not casting like NALCS or LCK, Dad's fault. Dad, if you had to let me stay inside a couple more times, maybe I'd be a little bit better at this.
Damn it, Dad.
Here's my question though. Why aren't you a professional skateboarder then? Because you went out and did that all the time. Maybe you're just bad at everything.
That's actually a good point. I've never thought of it from the reverse perspective.
Do you reckon your entire life you've been wearing a shoe one half size too small?
could
On my
be the
right
difference.
foot?
Yeah.
Just on my right foot.
And that's what's tilted
It
you for
always
life.
felt a little cramped on the right side. And now I know why.
And as well as the Nick Box all evening, we are going to be drawing the winner. Choosing the winner, I suppose, for the Cloud Alpha HyperX gaming headset from the comic book cover submission. So we designed ours yesterday. You guys have been designing yours. You've sent them in. They are amazing. We have time, I would say conservatively, let's say 2.5 hours, possibly 3.5 hours, for you to send in your final submissions. Anyone who hasn't done it, the best one will get the headset. The runners-up will get Hex Tech chests and keys, and the losers will get my chewed-up kiwi fruit that has a little bit of Jake's receipt on it.
Yeah. Who are we benchmarking them against? Who was the best out of the casters?
Oh,
That's a
no.
good question. I mean, Bryce.
far.
Bryce doesn't have an opinion on this, I believe. I believe Bryce, you don't know who
I don't
was
need
the
to
best.
say
Did we do a poll or a vote at all?
We should. How about we do that?
Yeah, I agree.
And before we can do that, we need to see the last caster's entry. Pyra, you put one together just before we went to air.
That is right, I did. I don't know if it will be nearly as artistic as Bryce's.
It will
I
be
believe
fire.
it was
Don't sell yourself short.
kneecaps are the eyes of the leg.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's not quite that profound, but
What do we got?
I did do a little inspired number from our wonderful host.
Oh, wow.
And this is in keeping with the weird vibe because this is kind of like a Tales of Mystery. This is the man of 1,000 phrases. Mm-hmm. It's Nick Boy himself. And if you can't read it, I'll try holding it up a little bit, but I like the teat-shaped hose in every house. That's your plan for Prime Minister.
Correct.
I got Smokin'
President.
Daddy. It's a classic up here. Down here is just Lemon Boys, another classic. And then what's in Nick's box? And many more
What is
from
in
the
Nick's
mad
box?
mind of the OPL. There we go.
I mean, that one has to win because it's just about me.
It's actually not bad.
It's not bad. It feels like one of those comics from like the 50s where it's teaching you about stranger danger.
Art-wise, low tier. Story-wise, he actually put some thought into it.
I mean,
The
that's
rest of us
kind of
just
what.
drew a picture.
That's kind of like my MO, right? Like, I can't really make anything look good, but I can talk about it.
Yeah,
and you'll
okay.
enjoy it.
Bryce,
Yeah.
you can't sit there and talk yours up and then just trash everyone else's.
That's
Kinda
exactly what I'm
makes you
doing.
seem like
That
a
is
little
literally
bit-
what I'm doing right now.
If he's the
And
only
it's-
horse in the race,
it's
you
working.
can't lose.
We are going to make a poll. There is going to be a vote. There will be decisions made on who did the best comic book cover. And of course, you will beat us because I've already seen some of the submissions. Boys,
We
we
in
got a
trouble?
chat on.
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
big time. It's very exciting. So if you guys cook up anything new over the next couple of hours, please send it in at OPL using the hashtag IamOPL, and you could win. There will be other winners today because we got 4 games of League of Legends on. Rusty, talk us through 'em.
Bring it up. I only know the first one off the top of my head.
Say the first one.
Mammoth AV! Order takes on Legacy afterwards. Bombers and Chiefs are the third game of the day, and Gravitas and Direwolves will round us out. A lot of people here spawn fighting for their place in the gauntlet still.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd have to think the really important game first up for Mammoth versus Avant, I would say game of the day.
Yep.
Just based on the fact that Bombers Chiefs are 2 matches apart. So
Yeah.
even though I think that that is like the quality match of the
The
game,
banger.
like implication-wise, Avant versus Mammoth, even though Avant hold the head-to-head,
Yeah.
they need to continue to maintain that because Mammoth do seem like they're ramping up. And every point right now is a point that they're not going to be able to grab. This is kind of the 2-for-1 special. I will also say that Legacy versus Order could be spicy because if Legacy get the head-to-head, Order is going to be 2 games behind Gravitas. Then you never know. Order's like looking like maybe coming second last. So there's some like stuff happening today. But I think game 3 is probably the one that a lot of fans are going to look at benchmarking the OPL.
A lot of match of the days here today.
I think it's game number 1. I'm most excited
Yeah,
about
I'm
game number
excited
1.
about game 1 as well.
Because I actually don't know what's going to happen. And I think I know what's going to happen in game number 3, but also,
Ooh,
like you said, game
what's going
number
to happen
1.
in game 3?
Well, we're going to find
Talk
out
me
because
through
we've
it.
got spicy tips. I picked all the underdogs again, so whatever I picked, the opposite is who's going to win. So I think it's going to be Bombers.
Yeah!
There you go.
Ooh, so you think Mammoth are the underdog?
I do.
I like that because Avant did beat them. Like when? Last week?
Yeah,
2 weeks
last
ago?
week.
I can't remember from Snowball
It was-
Tips. I saw you lose so many games last
Yeah, I
week.
mean, with 3 of the 5 games were us losing fights, so I think it was last week. It's very
Yeah.
hard to tell when we played 3 teams.
But that's interesting. Bombers.
This is an exciting day.
Bryce went Chiefs again.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a mistake. Bryce can never actually correctly type the words that he wants. Bryce?
That's untrue. I picked Chiefs last time. You know, they had a bit of a roughie, but I'm back at them. I still think that Chiefs can take down Bombers.
So you think like, and Sean and Juves, I'm sure, are a little bit disappointed, but you think that like, you know, he's representing your club, but you cut him a little bit further, and there's still some blue Chief uniform underneath there. Then you take another like a little bit of a scratch off. Then you start seeing a tree start sprouting out there. There's still some legacy in there somewhere as well. It's fun to have just such a conflicted man on the cast, isn't
Oh,
it?
he's a broken boy. He's our favorite broken boy of the OPL. All right, it is Mammoth versus AEV, and our POV streams all day are going to be the supports, which is
Ooh.
exciting.
Hey.
My favorite position. So Destiny is the one you're going to be watching. If you go to @OPL on Twitter, you can check out Destiny's POV stream. But for now, yeah.
None of these guys are Enchanter support, so you're an Enchanter support,
Yes,
right?
I am, very
You
much so.
You
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to play the spell flingers.
Oh, very much. I like
like
to
the
hide in the
spell flingers.
trees because I'm too scared about my soft body.
Would you call Rakan a spell flinger?
Yeah, now he is, absolutely. Oh, he's
You
an
might get
engaged
Rakan.
spell flinger.
Rakan?
You get Rakan.
I'll do a Rakan. All right. Rusty? No, not Rusty. Justin here, because you just said that. I mean, Egypt and Pirate. You're at the desk. Let's go.
Who's conflicted now? Come on, Nick boy.
It's
Your
you.
names?
It's
Good.
still you.
Okay, apparently, man, people,
But
people
I
are
was
really
talking about
piling on
Jake.
you.
Rakan is that like, especially look at yesterday Mammoth, right? Like Destiny, like they're talking shit about Rakan, but like Destiny played, he was getting like flash knockups like all over the place.
He
He was
made it
starting
look
those
good.
fights. He's
He
not
made
a
it look
spell
really
flinger.
good.
He
Yeah.
isn't W max anymore. Used to be W max. Now he's like Q max, but switched him up, but still does the same bloody job once you get into mid game.
All right, well, we're into picks and bans. Mammoth versus Avant for the 3rd time this split. They just met last week as well, and Avant have the tiebreak
Yeah.
2-0. Let's see if Mammoth can make a dent in that. They start off by removing the Evelyn and the Jace, and the Alistair goes off the board.
Yep, and as you can now see in the center of your screen, Silence globally disabled. That's going to be a trend through yesterday and will continue for all of today.
That's a public service announcement right there.
And this is an interesting matchup because AV hold the head-to-head as they were saying on the couch. They've beaten them in the Mordekaiser comp, and then last week was that nutty Darius game versus the Yasuo in the hands of Gunkrab that actually won. So it is fairly interesting. People are saying Mammoth have been ramping up, got a victory yesterday over the Direwolves, but we'll see how this one plays out.
I like that Avant end up banning the Yasuo themselves. Of course, it has been a very strong pick, and now that they find themselves on the red side, does seem to make a lot of sense. The Thresh being banned away as well by Mammoth.
Yep.
So a couple of supports, jungler, a little bit of carries, you know, just kind of a smattering of everything in that ban column. Nobody really being hard targeted.
A couple of target bans, like the Eve is obviously a Swayth specific, and you mentioned his name. It is not Sybil playing this day. It will be Swayth, so going to see that. Alistar Thresh banned from alternating teams means that the one big tank support that is kind of priority, like you still have Tahm Kench, you still have Braum, but they're much more of defensive options, means Galio does just get first picked up here for Mammoth.
We've typically seen this come into play when there are lots and lots of other engage tools, and Avant will throw in the Nico and Braum really quickly here. We've seen it being played AD carry before, and it was Gunkrab.
Yes, it was them literally yesterday in the game versus Gravitas, and honestly had a bit of a rough laning phase. You know, she's very good at being oppressive, and then it was into an Ezreal Tahm Kench and got absolutely no work done, and Raid was actually farming like Klepto procs off the clone that was getting sent towards him the entirety of that laning phase. So
yeah, that's a bit of an oopsie there.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily going to be a bottom lane Nico. Rusty was saying on cast it can be played in 4 roles. That's interesting. I don't know which one the 4th is. I think maybe support over jungle, but especially in all of the carry roles, top, mid, and AD carry, she can be played, and they are on red side, so they have the opportunity to flex her literally wherever they want.
Now, that's true. Yesterday, we saw it being paired with a Zac support, which was a really interesting strategy that
such
mixed
a
things
cool
up.
combo.
And that was a cool combination because the other team had a Tahm Kench. This time around, it's a Braum. We won't be seeing the Zac in support position unless they really flex in this time.
Yeah.
And on the Mammoth side, they get the Kai'Sa lock-in for King and a Vladimir that can go a couple different places.
And talking about yesterday's games, Topoon had a monster performance on the Vladimir, right? Like, yes, is it necessarily going to be in his hands? Triple can play it as well, but he was, what, like a 7-1 and 8-1 with 700 gold shutdown by the end of that game, doing so much damage in the back end of these fights.
Yeah,
so
he was a beast, man, and he's so humble when I talk to him, too. He really, gives the team a lot of credit for raising him up, and I think it's good to see Mammoth taking a player that is new, and especially from a different environment, really bringing him into a top-tier position. We'll see how he faces off against Avant's lineup today. Shock will lock in the Aatrox, and that's another champion that can go a couple of places. I believe Swayth has played it in the jungle.
Yes, so Aatrox, when he is locked in, tends to be defaulted towards the jungle position, but I feel like that Fiora ban is slightly curious. That's a very good matchup into the Aatrox. He has very broadcast CC that's on a delay. Fiora literally loves that situation, right? Aatrox going to hit you with a Q. She has 7 years to use her riposte and then just pummel you in the face with her sword, so makes a lot of sense that they're going to ban that matchup away. They want to be able to put Aatrox topside if they can, and another top lane ban means that is likely where it's going to go.
Okay, and Mammoth definitely not convinced that the Aatrox is jungle either since they start banning away the Kha'Zix. Will they throw another jungle ban at Swayth?
Because these are all like
13 seconds.
Swayth champions, right? Like when you think of Kha'Zix in the OPL, it's Swayth and it is Balkan.
Yeah. I think Swayth has also been one of the more consistently performing players on Avant. They had a lot of standout players as you drop your pen.
Yep.
But I think when I think of a player, in all the games he's been in, there are very few that I can really point to where I feel like Swayth has let the team down.
There's been a few shoddy games here and there, but they are few and far between. He had a Sejuani game that was fairly rough, and the Rek'Sai ban will come through. Of course, this is very interesting if they actually lock a solo lane here. So they're holding jungle till last pick. Remember that looking at Mammoth's composition, they've banned away the Eve, they've banned away the Kha'Zix and the Rek'Sai, and I'm expecting something like the Zac, something like the Sejuani, a big beefy jungler, and Kayn is still absolutely an option here. It could be the Jarvan as well to pair with the Galio to get that 1-2 punch of Jarvan going in and then Galio flying in over the top, and so there are certainly interesting options, but last pick jungle is not something you see very often.
No, it is not. Now, Mammoth will lock in Zoe for triple there, and there
it
comes the J4. A little bit of extra engagement, so if I have to guess, jungle Jarvan.
Yes.
About the only thing that makes sense.
Vladimir on the top side, Kai'Sa and Galio rounding out the bottom lane, and there it is. That's the Kayn, so this is a fairly interesting draft here from AV, right? They've got the Ryze that will be able to side lane much later. They have Nico, and she's kind of not really known what she does in the current meta. She is brand new, and unfortunately, like a lot of these teams necessarily haven't played against it, right? Like we don't know what's been going in scrims, and obviously in solo queue she gets played all over the place, but in a competitive game, she isn't well tested, right? Like we don't know where she entirely stands, and AV, they're exactly the type of team to start bringing this one out to the competitive stage, and they're just more than happy to give it to Gunkrab.
No, that's true, and this has been the one place we've seen it played in the hands of Gunkrab, so perhaps Mammoth, watching tape yesterday, would be able to have prepared for this a little bit, but there's still probably a lot of surprises up the sleeves of Avant. Really don't put anything past them.
Yeah, and it will be super interesting because this bottom lane matchup is very different than the one we saw yesterday. As you mentioned, the Zac and the Nico, the 1-2 punch of Zac going in, kidnapping you back, and then the Pot Blossom comes over the top. This is King on the Kai'Sa and Destiny on the Galio, so still probably a fairly negative lane into the Nico, but Destiny just wants to be roaming around the map.
Yeah, and it does feel like, looking at Avant's lineup, that they just have a lot of solo power picks in regards. Like, I'm looking at this, and I kind of feel like this is a comp that just wants to get picks. Is that true?
Somewhat, yes. Like, Swathe needs time on the Kayn. He's not very good pre-transform, and they have fairly sturdy lanes to be able to get him to that point. It's not very often in League of Legends you look at a team comp and you look at the jungle matchup and say, yes, the lanes want to help the jungle get to a certain point where he can be useful. More often than not, it is the reverse, but AV, they like to play around Swathe, right? This is a signature pick. I believe he's the only one that's played in the OPL this year.
I think you're right.
I may be wrong on that one, but he's played a boatload of games, and look, it makes sense.
Absolutely. As we get underway here for Mammoth versus Avant, we are welcoming back to the desk Fantix once again. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, second time this week.
Yeah, dude, you're getting all the
Hella mic
exercise. You're getting all the mic stuff.
Yeah.
So let's ask you a little bit about this game coming up. I'll get into the specifics of the picks and bans in a minute. Asked you yesterday about the Direwolves. Today, you're kind of up against Avant. This is a toughie for you in the standings as well. How are you feeling after the draft?
I'm feeling pretty good about the draft. Their Nico pick didn't work out for them yesterday, and I think as long as we stick to our game plan, it should work out the same way. It's just not going to do much, and then yeah, I'm honestly kind of confused about the Nico pick because this is the patch where it hasn't actually been buffed yet. So it must be just like some sort of like flavor pick that they especially like. But, objectively, I actually don't see the value on this patch.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about specifically the Nico. Like, do you think this is AV just trying to throw the gauntlet? Like, it's somewhat untested, but, like, did you expect, or did you look at yesterday and be like, hey, it didn't go well, we're happy to give it over? Like, we don't need to ban the wildcardy champ?
Yeah, absolutely. We pretty much looked at yesterday's game that I believe it was Gravitas that played against it, and it had little to no impact. So, yeah, it should pretty much be the same thing here, as long as we don't mess up.
Yeah, okay. And I want to ask you about the other side of the map in Top Hoon. Of course, he had a very strong Vladimir game yesterday. Is he one of those players that loves, like, because pro players are very different. Does he love playing, like, the back-to-back champion? Some guys I talk to, and I'm like, man, no, I need to play a different champion every single game. And then you have, like, Triple who plays 6 games of Zoe. What's Top Hoon like?
I would say he's a bit of both. He doesn't really fall into either ends of the spectrum that hard, but he definitely doesn't mind playing the back-to-back champs either. As long as, like, they're two very different matchups. Yesterday he was up against the Jace, this time he's up against the Aatrox. So, yeah, as long as the matchup's different, I think it's all good.
So how vocal are the players typically in picks and bans about the types of champions they want to play versus you giving them the directions and suggestions?
Yeah, it's mostly I give them suggestions, and I always give them the final say because, and I always trust like the players' like instinct to just last minute pick some niche champ that they think works perfectly in the situation. For example, last week's Darius. I don't think that pick was the reason why we lost, but and I liked the pick there. So yeah,
I think that's fair. Well, looking forward to seeing how it all works out this game, and thanks for talking to us once again, Fantix.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. Trust your team. That's always a good adage, I think, as a coach and as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something to expand on the point, in my experience, like, OPL is a best-of-1 format now, right? So it's a little bit different, but once you get to gauntlet games and you get into best-of-3s, you get into finals and best-of-5s, like, if you are too strict with your strategy, you can go into like a finals game and you're like, guys, we want to play this, this, and this. And then when those things aren't working, like, you have to mix it up. I've been in situations where you've just drafted the same thing, the same style, and you get to the end, you're like, man, like, why were we so rigid? Why did we have to play that? Because it was what we practiced. You kind of need to be able to mix things up and have that diversity. And honestly, look, Fantix, ex-pro player, one of the best mid laners the region has ever seen, so has experience in that regard, and I agree with him. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask your opinion too, Bryce, since we're still in the very early stages of the game. We talked a lot about the Avant composition since it had a lot of flashy stuff in it.
Yep.
But let's talk a little bit about Mammoth. It's kind of a signature style of composition for them. Do you think that they came off better in this draft phase?
Somewhat. AV are the team that like to pick like for themselves individually. Like this is a Nico, so Gunkrab has power. Swathe, like Kane isn't bigger than meta, but he's a good Kane and he likes the pick, so he plays it. Whereas Mammoth's comp just makes a lot more sense cohesively. Right, Jarvan goes in, gets Galio ult into the backline, Topoon comes from a flank, and then you have like burst damage from the Kai'Sa, who's self-sufficient, and the Zoe. This is much more of a, we will play the holistic team comp style, whereas AV have that individual flex factor. And it's been working for them, right? Like, for over the course of the split, they haven't played too much whack stuff. Fantix just alluded to the Darius, but it makes a lot of sense. It is just standard League of Legends to some degree, right? Like, this is much more towards what the meta dictates than what these players specifically might be best at in their role.
Mammoth have also been much better at playing the standard game of League of Legends, trusting each other to play together. We had to look at their journey as a team. They really had a rough start on a lineup that was full of proven talent. But when they started coming together, we saw them play at this high level, and they really haven't backed down from that.
And that's exactly it, right? At the start of the split, they did look like a bunch of five individuals that weren't playing on the same page, and it has been that level up, that cohesion factor that has been growing over the course of the split, and now they look like a very scary team going into the back end of Gauntlet, right? The entire time, Fantix in interviews was like, yes, like, the goal is to win. Like, the start of the season sucks, but we're not scared of where we are right now. Like, it is a ramping game, and honestly, it's looked like that.
Yeah. A win here could also really put a big dent in that playoff race for Mammoth. They're still right in the thick of it at 8-7 after a win yesterday over the Direwolves, which is to be expected, but Avant has been a bit of their nemesis, right?
Yeah.
Holding the 2-0 record. We remember last week it was the Syndra Yasuo combination of Shock and Gunkrab that really kind of ended a lot of Mammoth's hopes, and Tapoon's Darius just wasn't big enough.
And so let's take a look at this game specifically. It's been a fairly slow early game, but Gunkrab and Aladoric getting shoved in on the Nico in the bottom side means that King and Destiny get the first base. They're now tracking back onto the map about 30 seconds ahead of their opponent. And the other interesting thing is Shock on the rise actually pays the cleanse tax. He doesn't want to get bubbled into a Jarvan combo, into a Galio combo. He wants that cleanse to kind of get out of the first chain of CC so it doesn't turn into a literal chain, which means he won't be a side lane rise later on into this game, right? He doesn't have to teleport to make it to a play cross map. He's playing much more the 1-4 style, the hard team fight sort of force, which is fairly interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting considering we look at Avant's lineup and you think maybe they don't necessarily want to force the big fights, but they do have a lot of CC when you think about it. You know, you can look at what Chippy's is bringing, what Gunkrab, that Pop Blossom, if you can actually land it on everyone, is pretty massive. Now Swathe will find Babip here, and he goes in to try and steal away the Grump, but Babip's got his smite button ready.
So strictly a 1v1 invade here, and Babip comes up trumps. Smite was available. Chippy's rotating down, means that Swathe does have easy passage out, just wants to get him the lemons. What do you call those? Lemons?
I don't call them lemons, I call them honey fruit.
Oh, they're bloody lemons or melons?
Melons would probably be closer.
Or lemons, though. You can do both.
I guess.
Honey fruit is...
Maybe just a bit sour, dude.
It's too, like, correct. I have a problem with it. It's the actual name. Nobody looks at Red Buff and is like, yeah, man, I'm going to slay the Brambleback. Like, you look at Red Buff, you're like,
no one remembers the name Brambleback.
Give me red. Like, so I look at the things.
It used
to
be a lizard.
And I'm just like, yeah, give me
it used to be the Lizard Elder. That's what I used to call it.
Yeah. Well, there was also like Blessing of the Lizard Elder.
Yep. Oh, that was the other thing. And then there was the Spectral Race.
Yeah.
Which, remember, mid laners used to pick up. That was a thing popularized in China.
Laners ruin everything. As a support player, mid laners ruin everything.
Well, jungle's a weird role. Come on. Let's be honest. It is one of the least intuitive roles.
They take all of your items in mid laners I'm talking about as a support, and then they just decide that they're OP on them, and then they get nerfed, and supports just like, oh man, all right,
I can bash mid laners all day. That's fine. I'm an AD carry main. They get all the glory.
I like that. I will say we just watched about a minute of bottom lane. Gunkrab checking all the bushes around with his clone is fairly interesting. Not many AD carries can do that. Kalista springs to mind, as does Ashe with the Hawk Shot, but this is another blue buff invade that Mammoth are looking towards. It was Swathe invading Babip, but now shoes on the other foot.
Yeah, it looks like Triple and Destiny going to join up to make sure this one gets secured here. Not a whole lot Swathe can do about it. Even King is coming through in full vision. Swathe just kind of has to stand and watch it happen. Destiny going to be toying with a little bit of danger there, but he does walk away after placing down the ward. So far in this game, Mammoth have built themselves up, not much in the way of a gold lead, but they definitely have been able to turn back all the advances that Avant have been making.
Just the small leads that they're getting across the map, right? It's the priority to be able to invade the blue buff. Swathe was just standing on a ward, just sitting around, and you could see somewhat of the decision-making process there for Mammoth. Destiny's kind of like walking up to the bush, like, do we want to go on this guy? Babip walks over, he's like, can you EQ? Can I hard force? And they're like, no, we'll just place a ward. Like their ward gets cleared, they blast plane over and don't look to straight up fight this one on the enemy portion of the map. Maybe afraid of like some TPs coming through from Chippies, who I think had it at the time, but here comes a bit of aggression from the Nico lane.
Not an all-in, but that's fine. Aladoric stepping up pretty far forward to deliver a Winter's Bite into the face of Destiny. And King have been forced back a little bit. Still a CS advantage, as you mentioned. The first back did come through for them. And, you know, it's Pickaxe versus Vamp Scepter. Clearly kind of showing that Gunkrab is going to just want to be going for the sustained game for now. The value of Nico is definitely going to get higher as the game goes on.
Because she is, once again, for people unfamiliar, like, she is an AP champion, and she was like, when you watched All-Stars, everyone's playing her in the 1v1s, and they're building AP and just throwing the Q. On hit Nico, if we could actually click on her observers, look at her Q button down the bottom left corner. She doesn't have a single point. Parbu was telling me all about this playing in the top side. It's not worth the mana cost. Like, you just throw at this little puddle of damage that does next to nothing, and you're just wasting mana. You want to put points in the E, you want to put points in the W to get the on-hit damage. She's going to go something like Berserker's Greaves into Bork, into Gwinsu's, and just build straight AP on hit. Builds that you're probably much more familiar with a Kayle when she goes for that sort of style. So,
right, and except that Nico, by default, is, of course, going to have that range attack.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, she doesn't have to press the button, or in nowadays, in 2019 era, she doesn't have to, like, hit level 6, level 11 to get those ramp-ups as the rework has just come through. So
speaking of reworks, too, then, and Kayle, that's going to happen on this next patch.
Well, it's already happened. It's like a live patch right now. We're on 9.4.
Yeah, I'm talking for next week's OPL.
Conquer a hot fix in competitive play, but 9.5, the solo queue that everybody is playing at home, has the reworked Kayle and Morgana. So it's pretty interesting. This is the first big point to note in this game. Mountain Dragon picked up, and Swaith is soloing out a Rift Herald on the other side of the map.
Let's see if there's a reaction prompted by AV.
Like
they are going to try and close here. Tapoon does make it, and instantly Avant are going to back off, and that Rift Herald is going to get leashed over to Tapoon. Triple going to join the party, and that means Chippies and Swaith can't really leave here at this point. We're going to proper fight over the Rift Herald. Oh no, Swaith is forced to flash away. Disaster for Avant early on, and look at that burst damage from the Zoe. That is literally just the Lost Chapter. Oh, it's disgusting.
And you can tell Swaith's a little bit bothered by that one. Misses the Q over to the Golem wall as well, and that straight up just hurts, and it is strictly from the bottom lane. As soon as the contest was there, we saw this yesterday in the Chiefs order game, a lot of Rift Herald contests. This time, Destiny, he hears the word Rift Herald, and he's like, boys, I'm coming. And he was, I think he maybe had the magical footwear, and he's just zooming up the river and waiting. He has the global ulti. Swaith wasn't willing to commit to it, so Mammoth can hold the aggro and keep it at a healthy mark, and Aladoric was just way too far behind there, so Destiny being in the play means it's a 4v3 contest if they do opt in. Swaith tried something sneaky, loses his flash, but Mammoth just picking up the small advantages. It's a blue buff invade, it's a Mountain Dragon, and now a Rift Herald.
It continues.
Game's going well.
All right. King is forced to stop his back as Aladoric is going to grab a step forward. Doesn't matter too much, though. And all Avant really get out of that is a slight gold lead off the backs of securing 1 or 2 tower plates.
Yeah.
And I think that's still good for Avant. It's still them getting something, but that's individual advantages. That's not necessarily in terms of what the team is getting. So Mammoth, in this early game at least, are showcasing a better understanding of what they need to do on the map.
Yeah, and it is just like priorities, right? It's the short term versus the long term. Plates give you gold now. Rift Herald used to be called a turret in the bank, but nowadays with plates it doesn't kind of one-shot a turret. You can use it to get a bunch of plates, like 3 off the back end. Give it to a solo lane. If you give it to triple, you give it to Tapoon.
You can also wait until plating falls, but then you kind of want to get something done before that.
Yeah. I feel like I was watching something on the weekend. It was Papa Smithy's VOD review, and he was talking about a term that Ender from LEC talked about, which is plate ganks, which is something that didn't used to exist, but gold in the early game, there's just so much more accessible to individual laners with plates. So junglers coming in to give you enough prio to get some plates, very useful. You can do that with a Rift Herald. You throw it into a turret. It's no longer the days where if you don't break the turret, your Rift Herald was bad. If you get some plates, like it's a consolation prize. It's playing AFL. You try to kick it at the goal, you miss, you get 1 point. It's all right.
Yeah, there you go. It's a nice rule, by the way.
Yeah.
Learning a little bit about Aussie sports while I've been here.
That's definitely flame, by the way. Like, people from Melbourne will hate me for saying that, but look, the game, get points for trying. I don't like that.
Yeah, well, you know, what can you do, man? Okay, Vision put down by AV. Worth mentioning that the next dragon that will spawn is going to be that Infernal. That's probably one that most teams are going to be wanting to fight over a little bit. A little bit of a fake Chippies there, sent out by Gunkrab on his Shape Splitter.
Pretty interesting. We had a bunch of boring dragons yesterday, whole boatload of air and ocean.
The early part of the day, when I had Rusty on the desk with me, they were actually pretty exciting. Then you came in, and they got boring. Can you explain that, Bryce?
Well, I bloody got an Infernal and a Mountain Dragon, so...
You got one.
Oh, pretty well right now, but here we go.
Now, there's the big stun of the Pop Blossom, and it looks like Mammoth are going to turn this one in. They've found one kill onto Gunkrab already. However, Aladoric takes down Destiny with little help from the towers. It's a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, 1-for-1 trade, but Swathe is on the top side of the map, and that was AV actually being the aggressor in this situation. They pop the Fissure from Aladoric. They get a single kill with the turret, but all of these plates are going to be broken, and the turret might just fall down. This is perfect timing. 5 seconds before plates wore off, they just got 4. That's a
massive
whole
for Mammoth.
bunch of gold.
This is a big advantage for them, and now Chippies just gets caught sandwiched between Triple and Topoon, and he's burning down. Forced to flash away over the wall and gets his res back up on the ultimate. That just seemed completely out of position. He teleported way after the fight.
Look at his face. He's got a cheeky smile. He's just like, man, that was dumb. Like, what was I doing? He TPs for the flank on the bottom side, doesn't have mid cryo, and burns the ulti and the flash off the back end of a botched TP. So that feels a little bit rough, and this AV lineup right now looks maybe a little bit rough around the edges, and I was going to highlight something, but we'll keep that thought for a moment. That's a very nice stun into the ulti there to start this off, but Jarvan is just in the play, and Kane is not. So Babip comes through. Unfortunately for Destiny, Babip's like, hey man, I'm just going to keep the Cataclysm there. You can die to the turret. He didn't let him out of the cage. So.
King's repositioning was really good there, though, too, because he did dodge the Braum ultimate, and then I believe he flashed just outside the Pop Blossom. So all of that kind of results now in a decent little gold advantage for Mammoth. The first back, the back and buy now comes in for King as well, and he has himself an Infinity Edge on the first item.
And I want to see the gold values that King picked up at the back of that, because that's instantly, he had the double pickaxe and then has gone and built the IE off the back end of this one. Doesn't have the tier 2 boots completed, whereas Gunkrab does, so he's got 1,000 gold invested there and still has the one item, so you would expect him to be significantly ahead of his opponent here. And I wanted to highlight something before that play happened, as we may just get a fight around the Infernal. But I do not believe that Swathe has hit a mid-game on Kane where he has been neutral. He's not significantly ahead, and I feel like he hasn't been significantly behind. But every single Kane game, he gets a huge lead in the jungle matchup. This game, he hasn't found access to champions. There hasn't been many ganks. So
no, he's tried to go into the jungle and counter on to Babip a little bit, but he hasn't found a whole lot of purchase. You're right.
So Transform is significantly later than we've ever seen in the OPL this year, and as such, Mammoth have a little bit more control.
Fake Swathe sent into Babip's brush here. Mammoth, though, do control the Dragon Pit at the moment. They will start this one off. Let's see if Avant wants to collapse here. There's a ward inside the pit. Swathe sees it happening. He's going to move around the side here, but it's going low. He's going to have to Shadow Step in. Already smited away. Mammoth looking to get out of this. Here's the fight on. Aladoric collapsing on top of the Galio. They will get the knock up into the back. Aladoric going to get popped to start this fight right off. And a Topoon starts off with a kill. The rest of Avant starting to melt away a little bit as Swathe is forced to run away. King going in on the Killer Instinct to make sure he secures that one, but it's low health bars on the Mammoth members. Do they have enough to keep going? Looking for Chippies. There's the Realm Warp End. Most of them are out of there, but unfortunately, Chippies will not be one as he moves in. Destiny's still going to intercept him, and the whole fight ends up being a 2-for-1.
And yeah, honestly, so very close. Topoon gets a very big Hemo Plague on the back end, but this is all of the Dragons now picked up here for Mammoth. We're going to see how it starts off. Babip used his Q to secure the Dragon, so doesn't have the flag and drag, but that engaged. The stopwatch buys a whole bunch of time. Gunkrab and Shock literally have not hit anything for about 3 seconds in the middle of this fight, and King, with a very nice Killer Instinct, stays on the right side of the Dragon Wall whilst securing the kill. Chippies, unfortunately, he dies before the Realm Walk comes through, moments before it actually pops, so ultimate comes through, he pops back alive and then dies immediately after.
Which is a bit of a feels bad man. So, King picks up a couple of kills and all that, meaning he can buy himself a recurve bow, and all of a sudden the Mammoth AD carry is starting to get a little bit terrifying at this point.
Yes, getting scarily ahead. He's almost at 2 items pre-20 minutes. Ooh. Flag and drag out of there is multiple members. Here we go.
Two-man taunt, and all of a sudden King comes into the back line. Swathe desperately trying to run away as Gunkrab fakes himself in, and Mammoth are not perturbed by that for a moment. I feel like that is one of the least convincing things you can do on Nico.
Or just throw in a clone?
Just throw a clone in into the enemy team when the rest of your team's retreating.
Yeah, well, I feel like it was much more...
Yeah.
Like it wasn't...
It was a target. It was an extra target.
Like, it didn't really do anything. Like, Chippies are sitting in bottom lane, TP-less, and Mammoth know that, so AV are always going to run away. Yeah. His Gunkrab's... Like, he's not willing to step up. Like, Nico isn't a mobile champion, right? She has the invisibility and the movement speed from the third proc and the clone as well, so... She can run quite fast, but doesn't have any dashing abilities. This is fairly interesting. Aladoric will spot them out here doing this Gromp, and Mammoth are just cleaning out the jungle. Jarvan takes the bot camps, has his own side of the jungle to clear out, so Swathe is just getting starved out here.
That's interesting. A bit of a closing down sale. Everything must go.
Yeah.
And Swathe, unfortunately, can't get in on the deals.
And they're just pumping all of their gold into King. I would really love to see the gold values he is sitting at right now. Like 7.7k. He's 1.6 over his opponent.
Very far ahead of the Nico right now, and the 2 kills certainly helping out. A lot of that also coming in from the early turret platings.
Yeah,
but
he gets all of the plates, all of the kills in these fights, so he's a pretty strong Kai'Sa, and right after the nerfs, people were kind of questioning where her place in the meta is. She's an okay blind pick in the current state, like King did at this game.
She still disappeared off the pick and ban for quite a bit, though.
Yeah, like there was a week or so where people were trying to figure her out. They didn't really have like a cemented opinion, right? But like she gets her upgrades on her abilities slightly later due to the different breakpoints. Storm Razor doesn't get you to the evolves as early as you would like, so now once you get to the later game portions of Kai'Sa, she's still probably functionally a pretty similar champion. And King has just accelerated the bad portion of the game. He got through the rough parts, is sitting on an IE, almost has Guinsoo's, so he's going to be very strong for any sort of Baron fight that can be coming up. And
speaking of Baron fights, feel good. 15 seconds until the big purple worm will hit the rift. For Mammoth, though, still very much in the driver's seat. It's been a slow build, small advantages into slightly bigger advantages. They've just had a better sense of what they need to do on the map, a better prioritization. Avant are definitely struggling here as they're going to find themselves in a 3v2 situation. But denied, Babbitt flag and drag.
Yeah, he's a little bit baited by that, Ron.
Yeah. Wrong Nico.
Yep,
go
next.
next.
The combo and probably walks away
so
with a smile on his
sometimes the
face.
shape splitter does work for you.
It still work. You know, but yeah, fairly interesting. Swathe, he still hasn't reached his evolve.
That is pretty bad,
sucks.
unfortunately. Yeah, as a Kayn, you really want to be a little bit scarier than that at this point of the game.
Because this is Baron spawning, right? And he doesn't have his abilities. So this is a little rough. He has gone the Conqueror, so you expect him to go towards the red Kayn if you're going blue Kayn, which I've seen Swathe play a bunch of in solo queue. Like it's not like he's unfamiliar. But red Kayn in competitive is much better. Electrocute speaks to blue Kayn, so when he gets the evolve, he will go red, I expect, but it's still a little bit of a ways away.
Ooh, hops that wall here. Tapoon sees him, does 180. Last cone taken, and now they'll find each other, but that's a 2-level disadvantage for Swathe. He realizes he wants none of that.
Gets a nice chunk of healing in the wall.
That's a good visual representation of what Nope looks like.
Yep, straight up.
Tapoon is pretty scary as well. We've been talking up King quite a bit, but yesterday's Vladimir game, anything to go by. Today as well, 1-0, has the Proto Belt, and he's working his way up towards Azania's Hourglass as well. He's definitely not going to have little damage to sneeze at.
I feel like he had a much better time yesterday against BioPanthers Jace than he's having versus Chippies here, though.
That's also a bit of a quality difference, right?
Yeah, well, potentially. Chippies burnt his TP in like a super whack TP bottom lane and then like is losing a little bit of farm on the other side of the map for that stuff. Tapoon has been floating towards the play a couple of times, so it has been intentionally sacking some waves, but not 60 CS worth of waves, right? Or 50 is probably a more accurate representation here of the gap between them. So Chippy's sitting on 2 items. Like, he's having a fairly decent game. It hasn't amounted to a big play with Aatrox flying in from the back and one hitting a Kai'Sa or anything like that. We are yet to see the fruition. Yeah, but he's having a very solid performance in the side lanes. Is building that lead as Babip's looking for shock.
Forcing the flash out from the Avant mid laner. Chippy's trying to turn it back around, but that tower's already down. And you can see how fast they cut through it with the second Mountain Drake. There are some serious banger dragons this game, man. We got another Infernal coming up next. Avant are only going to be able to get a tower and answer. It is an outer trade, so you consider that even, but it just feels like everything Avant are doing are reacting to what Mammoth have put on the map, and they're always getting a little bit more for their trouble.
To some degree, it's been a game of like the little plays. The bot lane of Gunkrab and Aladoric, like they were okay in the laning phase. They didn't build any sort of lead, but they had the kill opportunity, and Jarvan was there to turn it around, right? And then they're like, okay, they're doing Mountain Dragon. Let's take a Rift Herald. Well, bad luck. Rift Herald takes much longer, and your support didn't roam, so Mammoth get the Dragon, they walk up top, they get the Rift Herald, and now they're just banking these things. It's double Mountain, it's the Infernal, and the gold lead isn't great. It's 1k at 22 minutes in the game, but King holds the majority of that lead, whereas Tapoon still sits in a bit of a deficit here. 1.5k is the lead for Chippies, so side lane is certainly rough for Mammoth in this regard, but they control the other side of the map.
Yeah, there's that 2-level disadvantage, however. Should start to even out a little bit more.
Yeah.
However, on top of that, Swathe is in the area.
I think
They could collapse on him.
I think we've actually undersold what this lead means.
Yeah.
Vlad is, 2 levels down, 50 CS, and he's now getting engaged
There's
upon
the
by
trespass. He dashes
Sway.
away.
Ooh.
Harpoon
Wow.
going back in. You gotta be kidding me. He gets the kill in the 1v2, and Chippies can't finish the job.
And that is strict outplay. 1v2, 2 levels down his lane opponent. Swaith burns flash, and Topoon kills him. They're doing the Baron on the other side of the map as well.
And now Avant are going to come in here. It's
That's
already
it.
spotted away. They will get the knock-up onto King, turning around. Teleports coming back on
Oh.
both ends. Chippy's trying to come in, charge through. There's the Pop Blossom. The Gun Crab's not going to find anybody. And King gets the first kill. Chippy's with a big old knock-up, but he just doesn't have the damage. And Mammoth are cleaning house. Triple kill for King.
And everything AV have done this game, Mammoth have had the answer. They pick on Topoon, but on the other side, they take down the Baron. They completely ace them on the map, and this game just exploded.
Whew. Man, that was just exciting. King picks up a nice, cool 3 kills.
Yeah.
Great collapse from Mammoth. And how about Topoon, the man who outplayed under tower? And, you know, we were talking about a disadvantage, and we thought maybe that could turn things, but
Yeah.
he identifies Swaith being the weak point. Here you see it.
And we're going to see what happens once again. The pool is burnt very early, and Swaith is like, I can go back in. But the ulti did land. The Hemo Plague is online, and
That was
because of
dirty.
Topoon's flash, he gets out of the CC from Aatrox, and Chippies does next to nothing. And we're going to see this fight. And I want to highlight King and the Jarvan on the back end of this fight. It is actually very cool. So we start this off, the Baron is gone down, the double TP gets channeled. Guncrab sees a big opportunity and goes for the Pop Blossom, but Jarvan, Galio, and then King's ulti just completely flip the fight. It's not front to back when the back just jumps to the other side and Galio gets out, Jarvan gets out, the Kai'Sa get out, and Guncrab's in no man's land doing next to no damage to a valuable target, and they just get blown out of the water.
And this is the thing, like yesterday we saw a really cool combination from Guncrab Aladoric with the Zac and how they could set up picks with it. But this isn't that composition anymore. This is reliant on Guncrab finding his way into a fight. And this is kind of like trying to just be a Morgana and wander in, an old Morgana, by the way, and smack on the Soul Shackles.
Well,
that just doesn't work.
If we want to talk about the Nico, like, I'm not sold on the AD carry position. Like, her as a champion, there's no way on-hit Nico with Halo Blade is going to scale as well as a Kai'Sa, right? If you're not getting the lane advantages with this champion, then, like, there is little reason to pick it. They blinded the Braum, so Destiny... Actually, no, that's not true. Destiny blinded the Galio, and then they picked the Braum, which isn't the most oppressive lane, and then they pair it with the Nico into a Kai'Sa, and you expect Kai'Sa to be bullied somewhat in this lane, but it just didn't happen. Didn't happen yesterday, but here's another again.
And they're going all in once more. Babbitt does get the dunk on, forcing out his Guardian Angel, though, as Avant turns for the damage on top of it, and Destiny is going to fall. But meanwhile, Mammoth have already taken out the tower. Let's see if the answer from Avant can come through. Chippies is going huge here, but is it big enough? Topoon will finally fall down, and this is going to be Avant making the base defense work for them. Or is it?
Is it?
King and Triple are still up. They find one. Triple's flashed away, but Guncrab and Shocker low, and now they've got to fend off Baron and powered minions from Triple here, and it's just a game of chicken.
And such a close back-and-forth teamfight. Chippies did so much work on the Mammoth backline, but ultimately it wasn't enough. They come out with more members alive, the 2 to the 1 of Triple, but has the Baron buff, has the creeps to kind of sit behind so Shock can't deal any relevant damage, and they do get the inhib. But that is not the play you expect to be made. That was probably a 7 to 8k gold lead stepping up to the inhib. Babip goes in, he dies very quickly, and it wasn't the engage that we're looking for. We'll see how it starts off. He gets a Jarvan combo onto only the Braum, and they're still tanking the turret the entire time. Topoon isn't in the play yet. He comes through, lands a decent Hemo Plague on the back end, but Shock is untouched, Guncrab is untouched, as Chippies just controls the entire Mammoth backline. But here's another fight.
And we're going to be on top of the Infernal Dragon. This time around, Avant are able to pick it up and walk away with it, forcing Mammoth back, and all of a sudden, Avant got a little swagger in their step here, Bryce.
They got a Red Cane on their team, and all of a sudden they can win some fights. He's got the knock-up, he's got the healing, he's got the percentage health damage, so gold lead still steadily in the hands of Mammoth, but an Infernal Dragon, AV are looking like they're holding on much better.
They certainly are. We start to look at some of the scaling factors on the side of the Avant lineup. The Kayn is one of them. I think also the Rise will start to be a pretty important factor. You could see what Shock was dishing out last time. And if you remember correctly, when these teams last met, a big part of the victory came from Shock. Wasn't just Guncrab in that particular instance. Now, there's a lot more game to go, and 2 Mountain Dragons means that Mammoth, if they really want to step up here, can knock them down easily, but Avant are starting to get some wave clear in their pockets as well.
Yep, Bubble does land onto the Braum, but given there's a Rise standing on the turret, Triple is like, I'm not going to go for that. He can ulti over the wall and ruin his entire health bar if he wants, but sounds like a bad idea. Topoon shoving in the mid lane, but this is a little bit of an engage onto Babip on the back end. But
Yeah, it looked like Swaith was going to go in, decided better of it. Mammoth still walk away with another tower.
Yep, a little bit of a chunk. They're just tentatively trying to defend this one. They were ultimately going to drop the inner turret. They're willing to sacrifice, so Nico finds some damage. Swaith, he can just sit in the wall with his E button, so
Yeah.
he can just fish for something, didn't find it, and they do just back away.
How long can you stand in the wall as Kane?
A deceptively long time.
I was gonna say, does it run out? 'Cause
Yeah, it
at
does.
some point you just get forced out of the wall, or something terrible would happen and you're just stuck.
Yeah,
But
getting
I don't
stuck
think
in the
that
wall
happens.
sounds like a bad time. But no, you just do. You get shoved to the closest side of the wall, I believe. But you can stay in there for a deceptively long amount of time. Kane, very useful in checking Baron. This is going to be a hard point of the game for them. He actually just got shoved out of the wall right then. He went through the far one and then the red buff wall and got shoved back into the pit. So
Today in Kane physics. But yeah, checking the Baron's going to be very,
Yeah.
very important. It's going to come up another 30 seconds here. Mammoth keen to clear away all the vision they possibly can. Swaith's not going to be able to catch a breather here as he has to walk over.
King!
And King goes all the way in! That was bold. The Pop Blossom comes up, doesn't get anyone. The rest of the Mammoth members have come in to play, but that is a lot of ultimates burned for nothing.
that was such a baller play. 1v4 in the backline and gets out scot-free. His nerve there holds on to the Flash Destiny, of course, channels the ulti over top. They don't get an engage, and he actually gets Gunkrab's Flash for the play, so...
I love King, man.
Yeah.
That is the biggest baller play you
Yeah.
can do. I'm a 7-1 Kaisa. They have a 5-stack. I'm going in on the killer instinct.
Because all
I
they
love it.
need is the fight to start, and they should be able to run over the top, right? King has the GA, so if he dies, it's not the worst thing in the world, and they have the Jarvan, they have the Galio
Here
to
we
buy
go.
some time, but this is a Baron, 4k left.
They're going to have to try and steal it. They have eyes on Swaith right now, and he does
Topoon's
get hit
TP.
by the bubble. Is he going to wake up in time? I don't think so. Now the teleport comes through. They do turn their attention off to Topoon. He's going to pull through, try to buy a little bit of time as the team comes up. There goes the stopwatch. And will they be able to take him down? Rune Prisny goes. Topoon still going to live, and it looks like Jimmies goes into the back to try and finish him off. But that is a huge investment from the Avant lineup to try and get something out of nothing. It's a 2-for-1 trade, and Mammoth secure the Baron.
And they're marching towards the base. Aladoric might be in trouble. Melee range of the Jarvan, and Triple's going to flash.
Flashing all the way in and going for the dunk onto Gunkrab, and he is gone all the way back to base. Babip still walking it out. Guardian Angel not popped just yet, and it's up to Aladoric and Shock to try and save their base.
And can they do it? The minion wave not just here. Super creep with the Baron. Babip is just on absolute negative health.
He is playing with
Here we
fire
go.
right there, but I think there's not a whole lot left to go as they get one Nexus turret down. Aladoric going to get popped, and Destiny after half his health bar, but it doesn't really matter anymore. Shock is trying to be a one-man army. Will he be able to do it? He
At the
gets
end?
sleepy. Take it down. Swaith is going to tag his way in onto the Umbral Trespass, looking for Destiny, but the CC train will not be denied. They're going to take him down. The double kill going the way of King, and it is all Nexus here. And Mammoth, after 2 losses this split to Avant Gaming, will finally claim victory in Week 8.
And that ending was a Baron team fight. They clean up a bunch of kills, and then they team fight them again underneath the Nexus. Eventually, they're able to close that one out, and they don't look too impressed with themselves there. Triple not very happy with the victory.
We know it's an emotional team. We know that these guys want to play almost perfectly, and they were in danger for a while of giving up that lead. Avant started to fight them back. They went a little bit over-aggressive. I mean, I'm trying to put a reason to why they wouldn't be happy with it. It was an exciting game. It was an emotional roller coaster towards the end. But they definitely controlled it for a majority of the time.
Yeah, like it was fairly controlled, right? Up until the big play that blew up in the game got them the Baron. Like that was we were saying it in the cast. Like they get a Mountain Dragon and then AV go for the Rift Herald, they get denied. It's the little things that were just kind of accruing over the course of time, and then Mammoth, they blow it open enough that the game just kind of ends. Their comp comes online. They can get the Jarvan, they can get the Galio. Some of their players probably should be happy with that game, right? Like Topoon individually, he fell down significantly. Maybe Triple not happy with his performance, but the bottom lane, King's making some baller plays. The team fight outside of Baron, that was just cool League of Legends. He's got some of that like King swag back. He was the AD carry that like played with a lot of flair like back a couple of years ago, and he's going for the 1v4 play on the back of the Kaisa. So like there's some cool stuff to take away from this game, but it did just look like a fairly solid victory.
It was a fairly solid victory indeed. Mammoth will improve to 9-7, and let's have the couch talk about that one, breaking it down a little further.
A solid victory indeed. Jake, as we were coming down, you were saying that AV drafted a win condition that looks solid. They just didn't play to it.
Yeah, and it's so cool, right? Because when I think about Avant, I think about these teams that want to exploit teams through their laning phase through like deep champion pools. And who the main beneficiary of that normally is Swathe. So they have like this really cheesy bottom lane, which I like. Like I say, cheesy in the nicest way possible. No one's played against Nico all that much. The OPL players probably have been, you know, especially the Melbourne teams, they're like trying to play at PC bungs or whatever while they're up here. They probably haven't had the most solo queue time. Nico's a pretty new thing. Hail of Bleeds with Braum seems like it's just going to have perma push down there in the bottom lane. Should be able to get some like good harassing trades off. And then I think that Rise actually has a fairly good matchup at times, and Shock played it really well. And then top lane, you're going to be able to push in. So I was like, he's just going to be able to run at this Jarvan and just start whacking him. And like Jarvan was the only melee champion that he had access to. And I was like, this is going to be a real quick Red Cane transform. Like I've had games like this in the past. Just like get chippies to ward topside jungle Gromp. You ward the Raptor camp, the Wolf camp. As soon as he shows in there, you just run in and start like just hitting him. Not for the purpose of killing him, to just get a really early transform. And then at one item, your comp looks awesome. Where this game goes wrong is if they ever get to 2 items. Because their comp at 2 items, like I think, is unbeatable in a team fight. Jarvan, Galio, Vladimir, Kai'Sa, like, who cares what the mid laner is at that point? Like, you can play whatever the heck you want. Like, Triple showed that. He was just throwing out bubbles everywhere. Yeah. And, like, because they're going to carry the game at that point. So I just thought, like, you know, clever draft from AV, but the early game didn't go how they wanted.
Yeah, there was I think the transform came in at, like, 25 minutes and 30 seconds. And anyone who plays K knows that that is, like, probably 15 minutes too late to what you think is, like, a perfect transform timing. And he had the opportunity, he had the moments where he probably could have pushed forwards. And even when you hit a point in the game where you just finish your jungle item, like hit a range champ, you know, like make forced plays. And I think this is also something where AV didn't play like their typical selves, is that they slowed down too much. And that's just not them at all. So now they're in very different territory to what has been working for them. And that falls to the wayside, where I will say, Mammoth smartly played League of Legends, slow, controlled, and took the objectives.
Well, this is where I want to go, because like there's some cool things in these games, but I want to extrapolate like what this means to the league. And if you now look at the teams that are in the most form, you would say Bombers, Mammoth, Chief. Like in no particular order. They're just the top 3 in my head in terms of form if Gauntlet started right now. All of them are playing the exact same. Big team fighting top laners. You know, the ability to have supports that are playmakers around the map, and they're just playing slow, letting the game come to them, and never putting themselves on a clock. I've never once looked at any of these 3 teams while they're playing good League of Legends and been like, if this gets to 6 items, they're in trouble. And I feel like a couple of the other teams are kind of losing a little bit of direction in that, because they are trying to smash laning phase. And, you know, I'll throw the likes of Legacy, Order, as well as Avant at times into this bucket and say, these are teams that sometimes do put themselves on a clock. And I think that the no-pressure League of Legends that Mammoth has started to play has really transformed their season, because I feel like they play through a lot more freedom when they do get 5 of those players on the map at the same time.
Well, I'm going to credit the win to the fact that King is wearing his old glasses. He's brought them back. He clearly watches the OPL couch segments, so let's throw it to the desk.
He's got the glasses back. He's got the swagger back. King got the win along with the rest of his team. So let me just open this up by asking about finally beating Avant, because this is a team you guys have had some history with. They bring out the Mordekaiser the first time you meet, you lose. They bring out the Yasuo, and Shock goes crazy on the Syndra last week, and you guys lose. How does it feel to finally get the win over them?
Oh, it's like a pressure's been lifted on off my shoulders. You know, like we look at their team, and by no means this is any disrespect, but I think just like our players should just beat their players, right? Like they have rookies, they have like players who haven't done so well in the past, and like Mammoth, these players should just outright like beat AV as a whole. But we haven't done that in the past, and today it's finally been like everyone has done their job well. Like you saw the top that game, he had the losing matchup, but he still like kept afloat really well. Bot lane, we like outscaled them. We played the farming really well. Leo out pressured Swathe, and Steven just won mid. Oh, I did well mid, yeah.
It ticked all the boxes, and it did seem to come down to a lot of just like trusting a team. I know Fantix was talking about that. We've asked in recent interviews, and you guys have said, hey, it's now about trusting each other to kind of stay together and playing more together as a team. In particular, as you kind of get a little bit closer to the finals now, or rather closer to the gauntlet, obviously still a ways to go. You haven't locked in yet. How confident are you and the whole team feeling overall that you're going to be able to make it the distance?
To make the gauntlet, I feel like there's no way we don't make the gauntlet, but where we place in the gauntlet, that's a big question, because right now, I think we're almost locked out of second, unless Chiefs do something disastrous happens for them. And what we're fighting for is the third seed, and I think today's win has sort of like helped us a lot.
Certainly looks like you're going that way. Now I'll ask you one little personal one because as an AD carry main, I very much recognize the need to go in for blood sometime.
Yep.
And you pulled the Kaisa ultimate out when you went into like 5 members on that Baron fight. Did you know everybody from Avant was there and you were just like, I don't care?
Oh, was it onto the Kane?
Yeah, I
I
believe
just
so,
didn't care.
yeah.
I'm just like, I'm going in. Like, you just have those Kaiser moments where
love
you just have
that.
to go.
And it's not Lee Syndrome if it's an AD carry. Cool. Congratulations on your win, King. Let's send it back over to the couch.
Let's get him a box.